Here we go. This is the Talkin' Buds football show. You just knew we were going to be back this week with a ton of takes. There is a ton of news in Bill's world. And Bryan, we're going to get to you momentarily. But there is breaking news in terms of the NFL. Deshaun Watson is done for the season. He has a shoulder injury that is going to require surgery. It is a special kind of torture being a Cleveland Browns fan.
It is. Like, you just had that amazing victory of the Ravens, and now you get this news.
Oh, I know.
That would break my heart because the team looked pretty good actually against the Ravens. Their defense was humming. The offense figured out after the first quarter, and that must be such a heartbreaking news to get. Even though I hate Deshaun, but
yeah, like the Deshaun, you could have a whole separate discussion about how problematic the whole Deshaun thing was to begin with, and like signing him and giving him $230 million guaranteed. But like that's a Super Bowl caliber defense. And they're coming off the heels of one of their biggest wins in years, coming all the way back to beat the Baltimore Ravens, a divisional rival, a team a lot of people think has like Super Bowl potential in the AFC. And then you get this news. Devastating.
that would devastate me, especially because the way the offense looked in that game. Like David Njoku was just pushing guys down the field, and Deshaun actually figured it out. It looked like they were sort of humming at a certain point. And now to have this happen, you're probably not going to even make the playoffs now.
They're going to start a rookie QB by the name of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So they're going with the rookie route as opposed to PJ Walker.
Or they had Dobbs
yes.
Yeah, they had Dobbs in
They did have Dobbs.
And they gave him up.
I was listening to that on the way home, that on the radio on the way home, that they had Dobbs in preseason. They gave him up. And at the trade deadline, there was talk of him either going back to the Browns or to the Vikings. We obviously know he's gone to the Vikings and is flourishing. But man, oh man, like I said a few minutes ago, it is a special kind of torture being a Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah, like it's torture enough as a Bills fan, but when I look at Cleveland, it kind of makes me feel better, just in a selfish way, obviously. But yeah, it makes me feel a little bit better.
Okay, Bryan, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to tee it up, and I'm just going to let you take it. Ken Dorsey has been fired as the Bills offensive coordinator after a really, really, really demoralizing loss on Monday Night Football to the Denver Broncos that was really frustrating offensively and then was devastating at the end of the game with the 12 men on the field. Just over to you, your thoughts.
Well, I'll start with Ken Dorsey. This decision should have been made, I think, after week 5. Like, to wait until week 10 to pull a move like this is desperation from Sean McDermott. When you make a in-season OC firing, it basically tells you the coach is done. It's his last-ditch effort to try and do something. And like Joe Brady, I'll wait and see what he can do. But even McDermott said he said it felt like it was time for a change. We need to be more confident offensive on the football and find consistent production. Half of that is Ken Dorsey's fault, and I've been really hard on him. And the other half is honestly Josh Allen's fault because he's been throwing interception after interception. He hasn't looked like the quarterback, and he even said himself, if we executed things better, Ken Dorsey would still be here.
He looks like he's asleep at the wheel out there.
And I do think that's because they've lost their discipline. Like when McDermott first took over this team, he preached discipline, and you would see it. They would be very disciplined. They wouldn't make many mistakes. Defense was getting a little penalty troubles back in the day, but they were on offense. They were very disciplined, and that seems to have gone out the window. And I blame Josh Allen. I blame Stephon Diggs. I blame Sean McDermott. I blame Ken Dorsey. So at least Ken Dorsey is the first one to take a step aside.
So why do you think they've lost their discipline? Like, so you blamed a bunch of names there. So are you saying that you think it's like cultural reasons? Like there's a cultural issue here?
I think there's a very, very deep issue behind the scenes, especially with Stephon Diggs. You saw the tweet from his brother the other after the game saying, Stefan needs to get out of there, blah blah blah. When a brother is making a tweet like that, it's been talked about quite a bit. And honestly, I don't really think like what's the point of making that tweet? Stefan Diggs' numbers are still pretty good. He gets all the targets every game. If he goes anywhere else, he's not going to be on a contending team because they can't afford to bring in people like him at his salary. So I think he's in the best situation he can be, and he's just acting like a little baby about it. So that really bothers me, and I do think that's hurting the chemistry because even Josh Allen in press conferences this year, he looks depressed, doesn't seem to have any fire in him. But everything really comes back to McDermott. He's the one allowing this room to fall apart, and he's the one who allowed 12 men on the field for that game. So firing Ken,
that was not Ken Dorsey's fault that happened.
no, you're the head coach. You need to be counting. And, it was DeMar Hamlin, which is unfortunate, who was the 12th man on there. But it all falls back on McDermott for me. And until he's fired, I can't see any change with this team.
To me, this is a bit of a scapegoat firing. And that's a weird thing to say because Ken Dorsey should, like, it hasn't worked with Ken Dorsey, so he should have been shown the door. But this begins and ends with the head coach. And I think you need to bring a new guy in here to reset the damaged culture that you're talking about. And I thought McDermott, his media availability after the game was brutal. I thought he looked like he had Scrabble face. And I thought this was just a scapegoat firing the next day. And that is, to me, you're in that game. Your team is in the position that it's in. Your schedule is what it is after the Denver game. The 12 men on the field is a head coach issue. It's a fireable offense. And I know in the NFL, I talk about this sometimes with the Green Bay Packers. I know in the NFL, making an in-season coaching change, it doesn't happen all the time because it's rare. Like when you watch other sports like hockey, like they'll fire a head coach and they'll just bring another guy in, whether he's from another team or he's not coaching at the moment or whatever. That doesn't really happen in the NFL. Like that, you don't really fire a coach and then just bring some guy in who's not working currently. You usually promote from within to just get through the rest of the season.
I think that's because of the 18 game season or
Yes.
18-week season.
Yes.
Hockey's 82 games.
Yes.
A lot of room to learn a new system. At the NFL, there's no room for error. And like the Bills are at the outside of the playoffs looking in at this point.
I think it's a massive, barring some sort of miraculous turnaround, which I don't think is going to happen. I think if you're Bills Mafia and you want what's best for your franchise, bite the bullet on this season, miss the playoffs, because that's the only way the change that needs to happen is actually going to happen, and come back next year, go and get one of these guys, these offensive guys, a Ben Johnson, who's going to be super sought after in the offseason, and bring him in and take a look at Josh Allen, get him fixed. Take a look at I was on Twitter during the game on Monday, and just how many people pointing out that like the Bills have like zero, not very much pre-snap motion, and their offense in when you compare it to other offenses around the league is not like nearly as complex. It's pretty easy to stop. So bring
I see that all the time.
Yeah.
I see that, and it just bothers me because Ken Dorsey, that's his playbook. When Brian Dable's there's a lot of pre-snap motion. But with Ken Dorsey, that's his playbook is zero pre-snap motion, and McDermott doesn't know offense.
Yes.
So there's no change.
So bring an offensive guy in. I honestly think the worst thing that could happen for the long-term health of the Bills franchise is to have a miraculous comeback this season and squeak into the playoffs and then lose wild card weekend, divisional weekend. Because then you're right back next year with the same head coach doing the same thing you're doing this year. And it's just, it jumps off the screen that McDermott's got to go.
And every time that there's like a bad play on the field and the camera just goes straight on McDermott's face, he's just sitting there like, ooh, like he doesn't doesn't know what's happening, and it drives me crazy.
Let's talk a little bit about Josh Allen. Frustrating guy to watch right now.
Yeah, like he's lost his mojo. And that's all I can really say with that. Because back when he was with Dable, especially, like he had all this confidence. He could sling it around. It just seems like every time he's throwing the ball now, he's scared of what's going to happen, and he's underthrowing, he's overthrowing, he's doing things that I haven't seen since his rookie year, which is, it quite frankly is shocking as a Bills fan because to see this type of regression when at one point he was considered the second best quarterback in the league, and at like in this season I wouldn't even put him top five, top 10 maybe. Like he's really falling down that list, and it really hurts me because as you can see I'm a massive like Josh Allen fan. He's ever since he came to the Bills I've been a Josh Allen supporter, even on this show, to my detriment sometimes. So it really, like, to come to this realization that he's regressed this poorly and just is throwing interception after interception, really it's shocking.
I think it just speaks to the fact that it really does. I don't think there's a sport I don't think of any of the big four, I don't think coaching matters more in any of the other three than it does in the NFL. And I think it shows you've got this, like I always refer to him as like a thoroughbred. Like he's a wild stallion. And you need a trainer to help hone his talent in the right direction. And I think I do agree that I think they need to get out of the Stephon Diggs business. I think it's become a distraction. It's in Allen's head every time he's out there that he's got to force the ball to this wide receiver who has temper tantrums every time he doesn't get his way. And it's so important to go out this offseason and find, like, look at what I'm stuck on Ben Johnson because you know how sought after he's going to be at the end of this year, and you see what he's done with Jared Goff. Like, go and get that guy.
I know he's made Jared Goff back to being like a top five quarterback, which is where
Yes.
which what we need. And
Yes.
also we need to tank this season and draft a wide receiver because we have to
Yes.
move on from Stephon Diggs.
Yes. And I'll get another, yeah, and maybe with one of your later round picks, get another running back.
Another running or even an offensive lineman. Like
Yes.
there's a lot
Yes.
of thing. I also have Brandon Bean on the hot seat because he's
Mhm.
allowed this clown show to keep rolling for without actually doing anything. McDermott should have been fired last year, as we talked about after the
Yeah.
playoff game.
Yeah.
So I also Brandon Bean's on my personal hot seat, which doesn't matter, but he's on my seat.
Yeah. So I think as much as there's a lot of issues with the Bills, there's really only, if you wanted to boil it down to the root, I think we've got to the root here in this conversation. And I think that's just, it's really not that complex. You've got the piece. The thing that the Bills have going for them is you have the piece that everybody is trying to get. You have a franchise elite quarterback. Now, I think I've said it on every episode we've done so far this season. Now, you do what the good teams do and you build your franchise around you do every decision you make is about getting the best out of your franchise quarterback.
And that starts with coaching.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
I really hope they make a move. That I can't do another year of Sean McDermott.
Oh,
It will literally kill me.
you'll die.
Yeah, I will die. I'll drink myself to death if that happens.
uh, all right, buddy. Let's talk about some week 11 as we move on here. We're already in week 11. Before you know it, we'll be teeing up playoff games. I looked at the sked for week 11. It's not great.
Dude, but primetime games are really good.
There are two awesome primetime games, but
I would
everything
even
in
say there's
between.
3 because the Vikings and Broncos have been playing
Broncos.
they've been playing really well.
Yes, yes, you're
So
right.
I'd say there's 3.
You know what, Brian? I stand corrected. You are right. I'm still thinking, when I see Broncos, I go, but then I'm like, no, man, they've rattled off 3 in a row.
I know they just beat Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen back to back.
Yes, yes. And don't forget Jordan Love.
Oh, who could forget?
Well, obviously we got to start with the Bengals and the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. This is a big game for both teams, especially after Baltimore lost to the Browns last weekend. And the Bengals, man, just when you think the Bengals are rounding into form and are going to take off, they run into who, in my opinion, is the leading candidate for MVP, CJ Stroud
Yep.
and the Houston Texans.
What a game he had. Like, what was it, 5 touchdowns or something? He
What do you think of that take that he's the leading candidate for MVP?
Oh, he's definitely the leading candidate for rookie of the year. There's no
Because
question there.
if you when you look at MVP, I hone in on the V, and that guy has made that franchise into like a bubble playoff team by himself.
You're right. He is the most valuable person on that
Y-
team. They
yes,
would not like we saw it last year with what was his name?
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills
Could you
Mafia. Yeah.
imagine if Davis Mills is quarterbacking that team again this year? They're in the running for a top 5 draft pick.
Easily. They'd be in the
Yeah.
running for the first overall, I think.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah,
So,
CJ Stroud, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch too, because he's very accurate. He's barely thrown any interceptions this year. He's making the Panthers look really stupid. That's what he's
yep.
doing.
Yep. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So, Bengals Ravens, a rare Thursday night game that is like must watch. Most of the Thursday night games are the most skippable game of the week.
Yeah, this one is like my game of the week right
Yeah,
here.
yeah. This is a appointment viewing. Who do you like in this one?
I'm gonna save it for Brian's bets.
Okay.
I have this one on there, but I'll give you a little hint. I like the Bengals.
Okay, there you go. Another game I have circled is the other AFC North matchup for this weekend. Steelers at Browns. This game now just got a little less. Actually, not true. I was gonna say it got a little less sexy with Deshaun Watson getting hurt, but you've got a rookie quarterback going up against Kenny Pickett. So these are two teams that, like, the Steelers have no business being 6-3.
It's just their defense. Their
Yeah,
defense keeps winning them games, and somehow in the fourth quarter they can make drives. But you're right, they no business at that record.
no business. So this is going to be a really interesting one. That is by far the best division in the league. So that's another game I have circled. And then you kind of get into the rest of these games and they're all pretty meh. Like, I guess
Yeah,
Raiders and Dolphins, like the Raiders have kind of turned a corner since firing Josh McDaniel and looking a little better, but I don't
the
like
Dolphins are also on fraud watch, so we'll see if they can beat up an easy team again.
it's true. You got the Chargers going into Lambeau. The Chargers and the Lions had an awesome game last Sunday.
Dude, that was one of the best games I've ever seen.
Yeah,
It was just back and forth. I actually felt really bad for the Chargers though at the end because they should have won that game with that amount of points with how much they pay their defense.
yeah, it's true. I think the Chargers get their win back against Green Bay. And
Yeah,
it's like Cardinals, Texans, Cowboys, Panthers,
Giants, yeah, Commanders.
Giants, Commanders. All the New
Ugh.
York Giants are a sad, sad franchise.
I have a theory for what's going to happen next year. Dable's going to leave the Giants and be the Bills head coach.
Whoa.
That's
Interesting.
that's what I'm kind of hoping for, and I really can see it now based on how bad the Giants are.
Here's my only caveat to that. You better hope that the Chargers don't fire Brandon Staley.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
That's
because
another thing I'm worried about.
if the Chargers fire Brandon Staley, then I think that's a very enticing job. It just is. Like you've got Justin Herbert in place, you've got a pretty good roster, and you get to live in LA.
Yeah, and their defense is wicked, so
Yeah,
that would be tough. But you know what Buffalo's like. You love the Wings. Just come back.
it's true. But also, if like I'm driving the Ben Johnson train, so if they fire Brandon Staley, who's to say Ben Johnson won't take the job with the Chargers? That job to me, if they finally fire Brandon Staley, that will be the most sought after head coaching job
Yeah,
in
because
the
everybody wants to
offseason.
see what they can do with Herbert. I
Yes,
feel like
and a roster that's pretty good.
I know their defense has just name after name on there,
Yeah, I know it's crazy.
and Eckler's
Uh,
so good.
Talk to me about the Jets and Bills. How are you feeling about this?
I'm concerned about this game because the Jets, they always have the Bills number, and we have a brand new offensive coordinator coming in for the next game. So it's not like McDermott can put together a bunch of plays last minute for the team because he has no clue what an offense looks like. So I'm a little concerned that they're going to come out pretty sloppy at the start. But I do think that they win this game because the Jets have just looked so bad recently.
Yeah, their Zach Wilson had like some flashes a few weeks ago, but is coming back. Aaron Rodgers, I love the people now, the conspiracy people who are calling bullshit on Aaron Rodgers having a blown Achilles and not a sprained, because
Oh,
he's
I didn't
talking
hear
about
that.
he said he's going to be back in the facility full time at Thanksgiving and hopes to be back with the team some point in mid-December. And everyone is like, if you really blew your Achilles, there's no way you'd be back this early.
No, not even close. And that's why I was like, what kind of voodoo stuff is he doing right now? Because like, how is he walking? How is he throwing?
It's and
But
listen, it's pretty on brand for that guy too to go to pull some type of seedy bullshit like that.
but he'd have to get the whole Jets organization to go along with it, at least the doctors.
Brian, that whole organization bends the knee to that guy's every breath. The whole reason why they've continued to go with Zach Wilson when you could have gone and got a Josh Dobbs is because they don't want to bring it. They don't want to do anything. Like, remember earlier in the year where there was all those rumors going around that they might trade for Kirk Cousins?
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
They're not bringing in anybody that is going to piss him off. And he says, like, it's his guy that's calling the offense. Like, what has Nate Hackett ever done except ride Aaron Rodgers' coattails? Like, he was the MVP during Rodgers' the MVP. Sorry, he was the offensive coordinator during Rodgers' back-to-back MVP seasons, and the Jets just go hire him.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Especially after what he did in Denver. I was like, this, I don't know if he's that good. And
and
you can see it right now.
it's a whole offense built around Aaron. There's whatever that guy says, that organization is doing. Full stop.
Do you think he has any like say in what Zach Wilson, like the play call Zach Wilson's getting right now?
Yeah,
Is he like,
he's on the side with a headset on. There's a clip of him last weekend and he's pissed off about the play call.
I wonder if he's like purposely sabotaging some of those plays to make him look better when he comes in?
Maybe I don't think so. I don't think he would do that because I don't think Rodgers is threatened by Zach Wilson.
Good point. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
yeah, and also he wants Zach Wilson to do well so he can come back and be the savior and help them during their playoff push. I gave you my
That is
prediction a
true.
few weeks ago. I think he comes back in mid-December and the Jets are like a couple games out of a playoff spot. And the whole narrative is, can Aaron Rodgers get the Jets into the playoffs?
If he comes back at that time, I will believe those conspiracy theories that
A
he
hundred,
just sprained it because there's no
100%.
chance.
Yeah, 100%. And also, the Jets' offensive line is awful. So you're going to come back and you're going to be running for your life. The whole reason why you blew your Achilles is because the offensive line is awful.
And it took them 4 plays to blow your Achilles. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So this whole thing remains to be seen. It's great theater. It
It
really
is.
is.
Did you
So
see that thing that he dropped out of the box though when he was
yeah,
leaving?
yeah. And everyone thought it was a bong.
It looked like some really expensive like vodka or something like that, but
Yes.
he
Yes.
spilled like half the bottle out.
That guy's he's on his own planet, that guy. So great point by you pointing out that the Vikings and Broncos is actually a pretty intriguing uh Sunday nighter. Too bad you won't be watching that. You'll be watching the Alouettes and the Blue Bombers for compete for the Grey Cup.
I will say the Blue Bombers have a decent jerseys. I do like those.
I always do. I watch every snap of the Grey Cup? No, but I do like the Canadiana of it.
Yeah,
So
I don't mind that.
I always tune in to just watch the sort of pomp and circumstance. And then once we get to 3 downs, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and then once you see that guy like behind their line of scrimmage just kick it as a punt and then fall on it, I don't understand what's happening there.
Yes, yes. It's so we'll check in on it. And then the second game, if uh Bengals Ravens is game 1A of week 11. Game 1 of week 11, game 1A of week 11 is Eagles Chiefs. And Brian,
Yeah.
did you see the news today that the Swifts will be meeting the Kelseys in a private box at Arrowhead.
No way. I must have missed
Yes.
that one, but
The
that's
biggest storyline going in. It's not the fact that this is a rematch from last year's Super Bowl. It's not the fact that it's the 8-1 Eagles against the 7-2 Chiefs. It's that the Kelseys and the Swifts will be sharing a private suite together at Arrowhead.
it's a clown show at this point. But I mean, karma is the guy on the Chiefs, right? That's the famous saying
Yes.
right now.
And I gotta tell you, man, like, listen, you could make an argument that the guy has built up enough like leeway. Like, he's gonna go down as probably the greatest tight end of all time. He's got a couple of rings. All he's done is perform. But like the leash that Travis Kelsey is being given,
Oh,
like, just like when you watch that guy, it looks like the last thing on his mind right now is football.
he's just traveling around going to shows. They're basically like a full on celebrity couple. So he's just
Yes.
everywhere with her, and he's definitely not going to practice. Like, how could he?
Yes, exactly, exactly. So it's I don't know. I think that dude's playing with fire a little bit because if the Chiefs lose this game, that'll be the no, last time they played it was overseas against the Dolphins. So it'll be
Yeah,
they've lost 2 of their last 3. And I think people are going to start saying, I think you're opening yourselves up to the Kansas City media going, "Why don't you stop worrying about your girlfriend and start worrying about winning football games?"
I know, because he even though like he is doing that stuff, he still put up crazy numbers.
Mhm.
So I guess once his decline starts, then be very worried. But I haven't really seen any decline. He's just such a
No.
freak.
He is a freak. So what do you think? What do you like about this game? I honestly I think I like the Eagles in this game.
I like the Eagles too, but the Chiefs' defense this year has
Yeah.
been spectacular. So this is two really good defenses going at it.
Hmm.
The edge I'll give to the Eagles though, because their offensive line is so good, and Jalen Hurts is a beast.
Yeah.
And like Patrick Mahomes has looked kind of sloppy the last few games, so
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards the Eagles on this one.
All right. It's that time of the week. Everybody's favorite time. You know how this works. You give me your picks, and I let you know if I'm rolling with you or if I'm chickening out. It is time for Brian's bets.
All right, let's do it. So my first one is my favorite of the week, and I'm taking the Texans over the Cardinals -5.5. Now, after seeing Kyler Murray play, he looks a lot better. It's just I'm riding with the Texans right now. I don't care who they're playing. I'm riding with CJ Stroud and the Texans.
Well, Brian, the only thing that scares me about this pick is that everyone is saying that Modern Warfare 3 is garbage.
Oh, so
So that means Kyler Murray will be locked in to actually playing football. So I do like the Texans to win this game, but the 5 points scares me a little bit.
I know I first looked at this when it was -4, and
Yeah.
I mean it's the same thing. You got to win by more than a field goal. So
Yeah.
I just took it still at -5. But after what I've seen from the Texans and from the Cardinals this year, granted that was one game from Kyler Murray last week, I don't think that's going to continue because they're a poorly coached team. They've got no depth. Their defense gets shredded
Yes.
every week, and
Yes.
CJ Stroud can shred up a defense as we've seen.
Yes, and I think CJ Stroud's confidence is through the roof right now.
Yeah, so that's why I'm rolling with the Texans on that one. Next
Uh,
up, my or did you say you're riding with me or you're fading that one?
again, I'm chickening out just
Okay.
because I heard Modern Warfare 3 is no good,
Oh
and
yeah.
that leads me to believe that Kyler Murray will be dialed.
All right,
Enough
fair.
to keep it to within 5.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
I'll let you slide on that one, buddy.
okay.
So my favorite underdog of the week, I have the Bengals over the Ravens
Love this one.
at plus 3.5.
Love
I
this one.
If they lose by a field goal, we get the win. It's no problem for me.
100%. And also, I think I'm really pulling for the Bengals here just because I think a Bengals win and a Ravens loss just makes that division even more interesting than it already is.
Agreed. I just want to see the drama continue throughout the season,
Yes, yes, because
especially
all
now.
these teams are within each other. Like this is like I said, that's the best division in the league by far.
And the Bengals record is basically the Bills record, but I just
Mhm.
have way more faith in them to pick it up throughout the season. We've seen this before with Joe Burrow. So that's why I'm taking the Bengals. I think they can actually win this game.
I'm rolling with you on that one, 100%.
Awesome. My favorite over of the week, I've got the 49ers and the Bucks over 41.5. I think this should have been a higher line for the over. That's why I'm taking it.
Mm.
I could see both these teams putting up points. Bucks, however, can probably give you about 25, and the 49ers can give you about 34 to 40. So I
S
think this is safe.
I like this bet. Baker Mayfield makes me nervous, but I like this bet because I think the Niners got their confidence back against the Jags last weekend, and I think they stomp the Buccaneers and will cover most of that spread by themselves.
I think they'll cover 30 points of the spread.
Yeah,
And
yep,
even Mike Evans had a good game last game. He had like 140, 150 plus yards. So
yep. Like
I, I
I can see the Niners winning like 35-10,
yeah,
and they've covered it.
that's why I'm taking this one. It's such a good line for this game.
Yep.
All right, so my favorite under of the week is Eagles Chiefs under 45.5. As
This
I said
speaks to what
previous,
you were just saying. Yep.
yeah, their defenses on both teams are really elite. So I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I could see it being, 21 to 14 even. It could be a
Mhm.
low scoring game. So I'm excited for this one.
Yep. I agree with you. I think the Chiefs offense outside of the Mahomes Kelsey connection is struggling. And you're right. I think the Chiefs defense is going to give the Eagles some issues. I still see the Eagles winning this game, as I said earlier, but you're right. I don't see this being like a high scoring affair.
Definitely not 45.5. Maybe 38 as a total in this game, I would see.
All right, buddy. So we're 3 for 4 this week. And the only reason we're not 4 for 4 is because Modern Warfare 3.
I love that. I did hear that game is trash. I haven't actually played
Apparently
it,
it's
but
no good. And that's you always have to take that into consideration when dealing with Kyler Murray.
I wonder if he's like found a new game or is he just still obsessed with Modern Warfare? Like,
I think he just loves COD.
yeah, I've got
Yeah.
buddies that just still play COD online every night. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
how do you guys do this?
I don't know. I don't know how they do it either. Like I enjoy gaming every now and then, but like to be like obsessive like that, it's just
Yeah,
not in me.
like I'll play Madden every once in a while or like an F1 game, but you can only do so many of those until you're done.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, buddy. That's gonna do it. So when we're back next week, we can tee up some Thanksgiving games. I
Oh,
love US Thanksgiving on the football calendar. It's great.
I actually take a holiday from work just to watch football. It's the
Same,
best.
same.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking the day off. We're making a turkey. We're doing the whole 9 yards. We're having
Oh,
like an
hell yeah.
actual Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm gonna sit and watch football all day.
All right, just let me know what time dinner starts, man.
All right, buddy. You're more than welcome to come over. And the rest of you are more than welcome to join Brian and I next week when we discuss week 11, preview week 12, see what's happening with the Bills and the rest of the NFL. If you want to do that, hit that like and subscribe button below. Spread the word, tell your friends. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you guys next week.